And we are recording. Okay, so I'm joined here by Katie Clum. Thank you for coming on the show. Yeah. And so a little background. Katie is my friend Jeremy's supervisor, correct?
Yeah, well, Jeremy is kind of like our angel too. He does a lot for our practice and is kind of our right-hand man. So supervisor, but also super appreciative of Jeremy.
Yeah, so Jeremy Vera, I've done a couple podcasts with him. He's like one of my best friends from Naropa, which is a Buddhist inspired graduate or school here in Boulder. Me and Jeremy went to graduate school there, and it sounds like you did as well.
Yeah, I graduated and I don't remember.
Back in the day.
2017. Yeah.
So, yeah, you brought up some really interesting points when we just had our little Zoom call. Yesterday, 2 days ago? Who even knows? But I wanted to really touch on this topic of psychedelics in the mental health field and specifically in psychotherapy. So I'm curious, how do you integrate these potent medicines into your practice?
I mean, it's new right now, right? So the state of Colorado and the Natural Medicines Health Act that passed a couple years ago, decriminalizing certain natural medicines, and then also setting up a more regulated space. So people are now within within this past year of 2025, training facilities have fully kind of come on board to begin training people to be facilitators. That's like the technical language. So integrating that now, that's all very new. Like I have my facilitator license for the state of Colorado, but I haven't officially really begun working under it. I have worked underground for like nearly a decade, facilitating for people. Kind of glad for the legal protections to be able to bring it above board. Also the accessibility thing. So I can speak from more of my underground framework because it was done therapeutically then too.
Right. I mean, the goal with any of these ceremonies, I would assume would be some sort of personal growth. I think, ideally, you know what I mean? I can't lie. A lot of the times I'll eat mushrooms to have a great time.
Yeah.
At music festivals, at shows, in the mountains, backpacking. And I think we talked about this a little bit before, which was the role of play in psychotherapy.
I'm not an exceptionalist. I'm not like, oh my gosh, these things should only be relegated to the realm of therapy. I think intention, set and setting, why we're doing them changes a lot about like a person's experience. Play is really healthy. Most of us are really lacking joy. We're really lacking play. We're lacking creativity or that permission to just like get into the different parts of ourselves. And it's different. It's different than when you're coming into a space that's being held very intentionally, like either in a ceremony or with a therapeutic intention to like, let's get into like, what is this thing that we have had an impassable relationship to, that no matter how much talk therapy or there's so many modalities, and I believe in all of them to heal, right? Whatever we've done, we keep bumping up against the same thing and we can't get past it. When we go into using psychedelics in that space intentionally, it can be a whole different experience. And not to say that can't also just spontaneously arise out of like taking mushrooms and going for a nice hike in the beautiful mountains, but it's more directed to
And I would say that's been my experience working with psychedelics, specifically psilocybin. Let's just put it like this. I've never done like a clinical psilocybin experience. I've always done it like if my mind is fucked, I'll go into the mountains or into the woods, take some mushrooms. And for me, it's about being outside. I have never actually done the the classic 5 grams blindfolded kind of situation. I am really interested in it. I have done, lower doses. And for me, just ended up taking a nap. And that's crazy and really healing in a lot of ways. But for me, it's like, there's pros and cons to all of it, right? And just recognizing and being honest with ourselves, like, what are the pros and cons with this? Especially like having fun or being in the mountains, can I be potentially avoiding something by having all the external stimuli? But can it also
and
be
unintentionally,
supportive?
I want to add, like,
Right.
unintentionally, it's not like you're intentionally trying
Yeah.
to avoid something, but your attention gets pulled other
Yeah.
places. Yeah.
And there's something, again, for me, let's just put it like this, so healing about like being in the beauty of the natural world.
Yeah.
And at the same time, then I come back to, you know, Boulder, the city, and might I still have the same issue haunting me?
Sure.
Right.
There's that saying, everywhere you go, there you are. So if you're not resolving what is following you, what's in us, psychedelics aren't like a silver bullet. They're not just going to come in and be like, all right, great, now it's gone just because you took them. But they're helpful. They're helpful.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think especially in Boulder, you see the sort of communities that are wrapped around psychedelics. And I think it's beautiful in some ways, but I think it's also limiting. Like, how much power are we giving these substances?
Right. Right. I like, you know, when I'm setting up the whole process like ahead of time when we're prepping, I like to remind people it's not the mushrooms that are coming in to do the work. There's a wisdom and there's an energy, there's a frequency to them that creates permission and a softening and an opening. And sometimes it's not pretty and gentle and nice, but they're creating something for us so that your internal wisdom can show up and be revealed, because we forget, right? Like we just forget ourselves. I love, as a side note, when people come in and they have a deep meditation practice, I'm like, oh, this is going to be great, because they already have this practice of going towards and looking at themselves and being able to sit with that. So you don't have to have a meditation practice to do that, but that's what the mushrooms are trying to get us to do, is to come back to ourselves and our own inner knowing.
And I remember hearing about studies that said if you do like a week-long meditation retreat and you eat psilocybin like the last day, the effects last something like 5 or 6 times as long. Wow. So I think there's something about psilocybin in particular that just increases mindfulness. Yeah. You're very aware of what's going on. You're present.
You're right here.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes we don't want to be right here. And that's what it's showing us, right? And this is where meditation, I said this in a podcast earlier today, which is, it is the most, for me, effective way to improve the quality of my experience. Yeah. Just by sitting and seeing what's here. Yeah. And mushrooms help with that.
And it can be scary for some people, right?
It was scary for me.
Yeah. It can be, it's a scary invitation to be like, come to yourself and sit and be here with what's here. And I think that's, you know, anybody, you can get mushrooms, you can have profound experiences by yourself. I think when you're working with somebody who's really dedicated to the path of holding this space, whether it, you know, and it's not just like trained facilitators through the state of Colorado. There's so many people that I know that are doing this work that are incredible at what they do. And they're never going to come above board because they have a different path or a different lineage. And they're going to stay in the so-called underground so that they can stay in that. But like, you want to be with somebody who knows how to hold you while you're meeting yourself and create that safety.
Yeah. And I found, as, you know, a therapist, candidate, or whatever it is, having some sort of license at this point, working with clients, I would say that it's so true that really you can only meet someone as deep as you've met yourself. Yeah. There's something about both meditation, specifically intensives with meditation, retreats, and in my opinion, high dose psychedelics to take you really deep to the things that haunt us. To me, the image I get is like these thorns in our psyche. And they're covered over with so many like protectors and numbing and distractions, looking away. We can live our whole lives and never see them, but they still haunt us. And what psilocybin, well, high dose psychedelics and going really deep in meditation and just sitting with yourself and your mind, you see those thorns. And that's a scary part. And for me, it comes down to things like existential fear. Sure. What happens when we die? Sure. Oh, wait, nobody knows? Huh. That's kind of sketchy.
We're all guessing at it, but nobody knows. Yeah.
Or like, is this whole life thing going well? Am I like, you know,
and what does that mean?
Right. Exactly.
What metric or measure?
Exactly. Yeah. And like, so what we bump into a lot of the time, I think, is our societal, religious, cultural conditioning. And it's like, I see so many people that, again, are haunted by that conditioning. And this is where I want to start maybe Yeah.
Yeah,
Please.
and so many people don't know. You know, like
Yes.
we're really lucky. I kind of feel like we're in a little bit of a bubble here in Boulder, in the Front Range, in Colorado in general. Like I really love it out here. But when I talk to people from back home and from the Midwest, sometimes like I don't feel like I'm saying anything so profound and it's blowing their minds because people just haven't had exposure to know. So I think part of the work of working with psychedelics is learning how to also just have these conversations in ordinary consciousness and invite people in to like there maybe is something happening here that's worth looking at, whether they ever go down the route of therapy, meditation, psychedelics, or whatever. Just like maybe the way that you're showing up in the world isn't the true essence of you, and it's a response to some things that have happened or your environment.
And this brings me to this topic of what is our fullest expression of our souls. And I use that in sort of the depth psychology term, definition of soul, the deepest parts of our being. What is true to us? And what happens when we extract the social, cultural, religious conditioning and just look at it and be like, oh, that's what we've been conditioned to believe. That's what is right and wrong according to these guidelines. Which again, they're just stories actually.
Sure.
And can we see them as actually, in the Buddhist view, the word would be fabricated, concocted, built, constructed. And then, so in one sense, they are real. In another sense, they're completely constructed.
Yeah, the duality that we live in here has to be confronted.
Yeah, exactly. And like recognizing we are living in stories and what is the impact of holding certain stories. And I think step one is identifying there are stories operating and then figuring out what are they. Like the whole the waters we're swimming in being like reductionism, scientific materialism, coming from like Descartes, Galileo, we have the Renaissance.
I mean, the Cartesian method of looking at things, right? That did such harm because what did it do? It pieced us out instead of kept us holistic. So we went to the people in the white robes and the white hats to determine what our religious following was, and the white doctors' coats to tell us about our bodies, to the therapists to tell us about our minds, the more classically. And it's like what I think psychedelic psychotherapy and a lot of these other, meditation and these aim to bring us back into our own awareness of our interconnectedness and our holistic health. And my hope is, can we stop giving away our power to all these other people and reclaim it for ourselves? Because I think when we're living in separation of ourselves and then separation from each other and then separation from this planet and the cosmos, then we're bound to be depressed. We're bound to be anxious. We're bound to overwork and overperform. And it's a process. I've been doing this work for myself for so long. Like this isn't going to happen overnight. So I just really want to make that clear. But it is a beautiful journey of reclamation of like ourselves. And I don't know that I know what my truest self is yet. I think that's part of being human. But I keep inviting her in over and over again.
And a couple things you said that I want to touch on. First is this topic of I don't know who I really am. And I keep discovering that, and in a sense also creating that. It seems to be a simultaneously act of I'm creating myself. When I get these tattoos, when I speak a certain way, when I pick up a hobby, I'm creating myself. And simultaneously in a sort of predetermined kind of way, discovering who I've always been meant to be. And the thing is with Buddhism, they talk about this notion of anatta, which is one of the inescapable marks of existence. So in Buddhism, there's 3 marks of existence: is impermanence, no findable self, and suffering dukkha. So no findable self. The more that we look for this real solid thing called me, the more we actually can't find it.
And the more distress it causes us.
At first. That's what I say, at first. And for me, it's like this whole notion of emptiness, which we will get into because I know you're also really familiar with Buddhism and meditative practice. But the way I put it is we need to let the eyes adjust actually to the light of emptiness. Because when we identify with a solid, separate sense of self and ego, that ego needs a real solid world to stand on. And what happens when we recognize the world is empty? The ego has to be empty too. And actually, it knows that. And a part of us already knows that what we are is more of a story than a real thing, but it's an ego death. So the ego tries to avoid that at all costs, and it kicks it and screams and it clings and it says this is bullshit. But at the same time, coming back to that, just really recognizing, who are you? Like, ask that question, really. Am I the culmination of all my experiences? Am I this body? Did I come from my parents? Like, where did that come from? Like, what are we? And follow that thread into the void. And marinate it in it and let the eyes adjust. And then you recognize, there's a quote from Chogyam Trungpa that I love, which is, the bad news is that we're all in free fall without a parachute. The good news is that there is no ground. Yeah. So it's all groundless and you're not going to hit anything. It's okay when the eyes adjust.
Yeah. We just get to relax into that experience. And I think there's such a crossover between meditation and psychedelics. You know, I've had some of the most profound experiences that I've had without any medicines in my body and just by sitting in deep practice, you know, what do we do with the idea of egolessness? We still live in this world where we have to have it. And it's actually protective, you know, to a degree. But the whole hope is, how do we learn to do the dance of awareness, of nothingness and also interconnectedness in this world, and the dance that we're doing.
And for me, the application of understanding the emptiness of self and really the emptiness of all phenomena is that we are just ultimately left with only ways of seeing. So there's a way of seeing that we can pick up that we call ego. And there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just recognize it's just a way of seeing. We can put that down. And we can also identify as all of creation, which, you know, is a big thing in New Age communities, a big thing in many spiritual traditions.
And it's also very common in psychedelic work,
which is interesting.
Mystical experience.
We can identify as all of creation. We can identify as nothing. So it reminds me of a quote by Nisargadatta Maharaj, like an Indian saint, I think in the 20th century. But he says, wisdom knows that I'm everything. Love knows that I'm everything. Wisdom knows that I'm nothing. Between the two, my life flows. Yeah. So it's like somehow, isn't it? It's like somehow we're holding both of these truths that seem at first to be paradoxical and like they can't blend. But that's the freedom of Buddhism and emptiness, is recognizing the mind wants solid ground. Yeah. It wants solid ground. It wants to say, am I real or am I not real? Yeah. And can we actually walk this razor's edge between the two?
Right. And then when I hear that, am I real or am I not real? What that brought into mind is, like, when people are coming in deep suffering, like, what is real is also like a deep question. And like, that's what I think. There's a lot of suffering. There's just a lot of suffering that is thrown at us from all directions, that we internalize, all the things. But, you know, I think what's beautiful for me, witnessing when I'm holding space and somebody is deep in their process and they get to that point where it's like the dissolving into everything and nothing at the same time, and then being able to, even for a moment, loosen the grip on the suffering that comes from, like, the over-identification of whatever is causing that suffering is really, really beautiful. Yeah. And then the trick is, how do we integrate that and keep it going? Because it's like one thing to have the experience, and then you got to do the laundry, you got to do the dishes, you've got work, you know, we don't live in a culture that's just like, okay, let's take time and really like go sit by the water and be with that. And it's, if we're lucky enough, we can do that. But most people, you've got to feed the kids and you've got to go to work. Yeah. So how do we hold that long term? Exactly.
How do we integrate that? And for me, there's a real freedom in actually recognizing that the dominant paradigm that we then enter, the stream of whatever scientific materialism we could say, recognizing, oh, wait, even if I'm locked into it for a moment, having that moment of awareness, right now I'm locked into a certain empty way of seeing. And actually, can I put that down and be like, oh, wait, now I'm all of creation. And that is a real lived experience that I can personally say that I have regularly. That's been a long time and a lot of energy and practice, actually. But and lots of mushrooms, I'm not gonna lie. But
in a lot of my experiences psychedelically, it's been, they've been all over the place. So you set the intention, it's like setting the ship and it's gonna go wherever it wants to go. But there has been this way of like also recognizing that things aren't happening to me, but they're happening so I can become. And like, how does that change an event, especially a highly traumatizing event, when I can relate to it as like there was and it sounds strange, but like this horrible thing that happened, there is still a seed of light or a gift in it. And how do I like relate to it differently so that I'm not just unmoored?
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, what comes to my mind, having studied Buddhism extensively, is this notion of dependent origination as taught by a teacher actually here in Colorado, Andrew Holacek. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he refers to this notion of dependent origination as rooted in the Pali word is tanha, which is kind of clinging and aversion, push and pull.
Oh, fearful, avoidant.
Exactly. Yeah. You could
from an attachment lens.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and what we could say is actually our experience of reality, of what seems real, is dependent on how hard we cling or push away. So when something completely unacceptable and traumatic happens to me and I push it away with everything that I am, what is actually happening at the level of perception is we're solidifying that experience to be objectively real, as opposed to being fluid and malleable and being able to have multiple different views on it. So it's so interesting to me. The antithesis of kind of that pushing away is being with. It's like, I mean, it's cliche, but it's love.
Right. And when I talk to people who are coming in with like, when I work with people who have a lot of trauma, I think it's really important to say, like, if you're doing a hard push away, if that happened for a reason, because you didn't have the resources, you didn't have what was needed in order. Because it's interesting, people can have really traumatic experiences, and you've had a traumatic experience, but you have not become like traumatized to the point of like PTSD. So, but I don't want people to feel like if I push it away, I've done something wrong. The hope is that when we come into the space with psychedelics, that we slowly learn how to stop pushing away and bring it in to create more flow, to unravel the tightness and the fear and the survival that kicked in that moment, because there was wisdom there. There was deep wisdom that was just keeping a person safe, alive, and going. Exactly. So it's what we get to do is come back and get held in a container of deep care and not always easy work, but we get to begin like creating more flow instead of every time we return to that memory. We're in that like rigid position. We can start loosening.
And a couple things are coming up for me around that. First of which is honoring actually the defense, the pushing away. That's a part of actually loving the trauma. At first, we have to love the defenses, right? And then that can start to fall away. I mean, we could lean into parts work to explore that. I won't worry right now, but we start to love that experience of trauma, and it starts to actually become less painful. Because what's so interesting about trauma, or just reality in general, is we can never separate an experience from our relationship to that experience. Yeah, I'll bring it up at some point. You can keep going.
Oh, not here though.
Not here.
No, okay. Not here.
So we're back. We just had a trippy little battery die going from
circuit.
Going from 100% to 0, which is kind of trippy. I found weird things happen with electronics when there's spiritual things happening, or when I'm tripping on a lot of mushrooms. It's like my phone dies, things aren't syncing.
Well, again, we're not separate, right? We are created of energy. Energy is existing within the space always.
So exactly, we had that forced pause in the conversation, but what I was speaking to was the connection between trauma and everything that we really experience and our way of relating to it. And I think a lot of people maybe don't recognize that we have power over how we choose to relate to any circumstance. There's a Viktor Frankl quote, which I believe is, one of the last rights that somebody can never take away from a man is to man or woman, obviously, but is to take away their right to choose how they relate and interpret to a certain circumstance.
I'm a huge fan of Viktor Frankl. I probably overprescribe his book to everybody I talk to. So shout out to Man's Search for Meaning. But, because we always have choice, right? He says between stimulus and response, there's a space, and that's where choice is. And what psychedelics do is it comes in and it widens that window between like the quick stimulus response, and it broadens that space so we can be more choiceful. We slow down and we get to see ourselves more clearly, and then we have more power to choose, and then it becomes an ongoing practice.
Yep. And it's so beautiful to hear you say that. It slows things down. It reminds me of Buddhist teacher Shinzen Young. He talks about meditation in a similar way. He says it sort of slows down experience because, time is very relative, actually. And it also zooms you into experience. So for me, when I was at Zen centers sitting for 4 hours a day and doing a silent retreat every month, the mind is so sharp. Things are so slow and zoomed in that you can see the most minute circumstances where you, like, someone looks at you weird and you have a choice. Do I interpret this and let the mind go into the proliferation of the Pali word is actually prapancha, which is the proliferation of thought. They looked at me weird and that means they don't like me and that means I'm not enough. Or can I choose to actually just let it go?
Yeah.
Or, I get a weird text. I can choose to not let it bother me. And that's the thing. When we can slow down, we can see we have that choice.
Yeah. And we can just watch ourselves a little bit more clearly and maybe not let it affect me. Maybe say I need more information here. Maybe I get to stay curious about what this was. Also opens our heart up to more options. Maybe it was never about me.
Right, exactly. And that's what I saw. So when I was at Zen Center, I was like 23 years old. It was this place, Monastic Academy in Vermont. Shout out, the place is dope. And this place called Bodhimanda, New Mexico. And I remember on retreat, it was like so interesting because you see how everything is projection. I'm not speaking to anyone for a week. No words. Like any little eye contact. I see my mind creating a story around what that means with no proof at all. And it's like so interesting how I'm spending days pissed thinking this dude hates me. And then I'm being a dick, like kind of just like, taking up space, like kind of bumping him. And it's just like, wait, what am I doing? Yeah. I have no proof. Is it me? Is it him? It could be him. It could also be me. And actually, I have a choice to choose how I respond to that circumstance. Yeah. And I saw it so clearly where after the retreat, I would like talk to the guy and I was like, wait, this was all in my fucking head. And I was like, okay. So then it's like a lot of responsibility, actually.
I think for me, I had an experience last night with cannabis because in Colorado, we've become so accustomed to just smoking cannabis. Like we drink a beer, right? But it's actually a really potent master plant teacher. And so, last night being the Gemini full moon and the good witch that I am, I was like, I'm going to drop into this, and it also was just showing, I was journeying down like my matrilineal lineage, trying to like understand something for myself. And what I also noticed was like in that I can loosen a little around everybody was responding at any given time in the best way that they knew how. And this just got passed to me. And I think sometimes when we stop projecting or making assumptions and we open up, we also open up to like more softening with ourselves. We can let go of the resentment, the hurt, the like lack of understanding. I love psychedelics for this because it gives us a broader container and it takes time. It's not always going to happen one time. Like one of my pet peeves is the silver bullet idea of psychedelics. Like it's an unlayering. Like I said a little bit ago, I've been doing this for a long time. I've worked with a lot of different plant medicines. I've done a lot of therapy. I work with homeopath who is also a Jungian analysis. She's amazing. You know, I'm pretty dedicated to understanding myself and giving myself the support. So it's never going to come through one particular way. But to go back to what you were saying, like when we do this work, we begin to start to separate from the projection and the over personalizing and the personalization. Like this was done to me. Well, everything's been done to all of us.
Yeah. And it, again, just what pops in my head is this notion of karma. And karma is actually much more complex than New Age spirituality likes to think that it is. It's not just, oh, this happened to you because you deserve it. It's like, yes, but that is a hyper oversimplification of karma. It's the complexity of cause and effect. Cause and effect as in, if I am stealing, if I'm treating others badly, I'm harming myself, actually. I'm creating a world through my actions that kind of sucks.
Well, because we realize that they are us and we are them. So we're hurting ourselves through that lens. Yeah.
And actually, in order for me not to feel that hurt, I have to contract my sense of self, like contract my energy body. Because for me, like I always use the example, if you see a homeless dude like shaking or ODing on the side of the road on the street here in Boulder, there's many. And that's always blown my mind, the affluence in Boulder and the like crazy amount of homelessness.
I saw a man passing out on a major thoroughfare. Like he looked like he was ODing and I had to stop. Like I had to stop and go help him. I was like, how can we live with ourselves driving all our nice cars right past this man? His life is important and it matters. And we have to touch back into humanity, but we can't touch back into humanity if we're disconnected from our own goodness and our own hearts.
Exactly.
And if we're suffering in pain and just contracted around our trauma.
And it's so interesting. This view of the ego, the solid separate self, is actually fed off of fear. If you really examine it, when we're afraid, there has to be a real separate solid thing that is afraid.
Yeah.
And so when I hear that you go up to a homeless guy and actually like try to help them, that's an expression, that's a behavior that's rooted actually in a more expansive sense of identity, where I'm not closing off from the suffering that I see. Because when I see suffering and I feel nothing, that's an indication you are actually, your heart is closed and you're living in a contracted experience. And there's nothing right or wrong. It's like, well, for me, that contraction is actually inherently uncomfortable.
Well, and it's going to impact our lives. It's going to impact how we show up with our significant others, our loved ones, our children, if you have them, you know, our coworkers, the person helping us at the grocery store, all these things. Like if we're closed off to ourselves, how can we be open to anything else? And then we're wondering why we're suffering in such deep ways through depression, anxiety, overwhelm, like the wound of I'm not enough, you know, all these different things that show up. How do we, you know, and so again, then how do we heal that, right? When we're living in that deep push away of fear and shadow, right? Is to go bravely towards ourselves and examine where that lives in us.
Because what that is, going bravely towards ourselves, is an expression of love.
Yeah.
It's an expression of, I'm done running. I'm done going in the other direction.
Well, we have to confront our fears. You know, like I did some shadow work around the homeless population, and I realized one day, like, oh, it stirs up a lot of fear for me, because I know from my own lived experience how close it can be.
Yep.
And that nobody is actually free of being that person that we all want to turn away from and, you know, like turn our noses up to, like somehow they needed to work harder or something. We don't actually know everybody's story. Right. And we're all very, security is an illusion. Our lives are not guaranteed. Things happen. And I think for myself, I really had to come back into my heart and realize the reason why I was rejecting was because I was afraid of that potential for myself.
Whoa.
You know?
And again, it's almost like we're in this hall of mirrors of projection. And when there's something in another person that sets me off or that I can't hold, is most of the time, if not maybe all the time, a part of ourselves that actually we don't have intimacy with, we haven't actually integrated.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep it at arm's length.
Yeah, we don't want to look at it. We want to reject it.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. It's easy. And I mean, I will add the caveat, this is big work. Some people are going to be completely happy just like figuring it out and going through the motions and driving the nice cars, or maybe not even driving a nice car, but whatever their level of success is.
Riding a bike.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and maybe like partying hard and doing some, you know, like go for it. It's not my place to judge that, but I think it is deep work and big bravery to be like, I actually want to know my expanded self, my truest self.
And also recognizing that life can be so much better. I really see so many people that it seems like they're just coping with life. And that's something that is hard for me to accept in people, because I've absolutely never settled for that. I mean, I will say I have, and I the psychedelics bring it out of me, where you taste real ecstasy and bliss on high dose mushrooms and like perfect set and setting, mountain, sunny day, no wind. I'm by myself. I'm talking to God. Ecstasy. When you taste that, it's hard to go back. And you're like, wait, how can I make my life more like that? And it's like, that's where the work begins.
And to the people who are kind of just living in that, not everybody knows that they are, you know.
Exactly.
I think this is, you know, sometimes what brings the first step is like, I can't tolerate whatever this is. And that usually brings them into therapy. And people either stick with therapy or they don't. Sadly, a lot of people give up too early. I think it's really important to know both just like your regular traditional therapy, it takes time. Psychedelic therapy, assisted therapy, it takes time. I also do ketamine assisted therapy. Ketamine is really great for certain states of depression, can really help, really provide help for people who have treatment resistant depression, meaning all the other things they've tried to do didn't fix it. But while it's has a faster acting thing, we still have to show up for ourselves and keep working it on the other side and understand what is the root.
And I mean, any of these substances, I think we just have to just throw in that they can be used as escapes.
Absolutely.
Like, especially like ketamine. Like, mushrooms will kind of slap you upside the head if you do them too much, in my experience. But ketamine, you can fall into this really dull, stale state where you're doing ketamine all day.
I have a very beloved person in my life that fell down that hole, and that
so common.
It, you know, it completely dissolved the relationship that we had, and it's heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, and it's, you know, it can be incredibly healing, and we have to be aware. Like, people can also overdo psychedelics. They can overdo mushrooms. There are people that I know that are exercise. Totally in Boulder. There are people that are like, I'm going into another ayahuasca ceremony, and I'm like, wait, what? You know, again, not for me to judge, but there's this moment of pause. Like, what are we chasing here?
Right. Or like, what comes up if you don't do the ayahuasca ceremony?
Or what is it? Why are we doing all of this if we're not slowing down to integrate it? Because we can open so much up that we blow ourselves out, and we haven't given ourselves time to settle it. And then that goes into like the whole trope of like the burned out hippie who's done too many psychedelics, because, you know, it's like, well, we were never slowing down to. And
so for me, the question is like, what's going on there? Again, what happens if you don't do the ayahuasca, you don't do a 10 strip of acid or whatever? And for me, it's like, what's our relationship to quote unquote mundanity? And this is very deeply spiritual. Like, are we saying that this is not enough?
I kind of relate it to, you know, like, when I go on vacation and to a really beautiful place, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this place is so amazing. I love it. You know, I went to Hawaii to work for, you know, a period of time, and it's beautiful. It's Hawaii. Like, you can walk around and just all the food is there for you, and it's beautiful, and the ocean and the people and the land, and it's amazing. And then eventually I'm like driving around in a circle. Like, okay, I still got to get to work. I got to go get groceries. Like, you know, when we're staying in this state, we're kind of losing some of the magic of it is the point, right? We have to come back. And it's also predicated. I think a lot of people are like, I want to live there, but it's like, this is also special. This is a sacred, the life is a spiritual thing.
What do you mean when you say this is a special, like life in general?
Life in general, this mundane, ordinary, get up, do the laundry, try to figure out what to feed yourself again. What clothes am I wearing today? It's very boring. But when we remember, like, this is also where it's all happening, and that is the gift.
Totally.
You know, it's okay to want to go into these altered states, but if that's the only place that you can find something meaningful, that's, to me, as a personal thing, it seems a bit problematic, because what it should be doing is bringing us back to the sacredness of every moment.
And so when I was on my big meditation Zen center kick, I wasn't doing any psychedelics, and I'm big into psychedelics, but I went through like a few years where I didn't do any. And I will say that was the happiest time of my life. And I will say that confidently, actually. It was just so much meditation, so much stillness, so much letting go and being with mundanity, where I recognize it's all relative. If no matter how much ayahuasca or how much DMT I smoke and just completely blast my brain into the astral realm, which I love. Personally, I love it. I think it's really healthy. But at the same time, it's a relative experience of so much stimulation, where then I come back to this and it's like,
yeah, that's what I mean.
And that's where meditation and simplicity is paradoxically some of the best medicine I think people can ever get. Yeah. Because there's a book, I forget the Zen teacher, but it's titled "When Nothing is Special, Everything Can Be." And it really was like that, where I would be legitimately brought to tears looking at the moon, like spontaneously, tears of joy. Just because everything was so simple, and it was so clear and fresh, and I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to really be in contact with life.
Well, we remember the sacredness of why we're here. You know, that the lack of separation, you're able to appreciate the beauty. I mean, you're able to appreciate the beauty of being stuck in traffic and the moment to breathe instead of being like, and I am not always great at this.
Me neither.
You know, I got to get where I'm late. I got to get to where I need to go. But sometimes it teaches, if we're doing psychedelics right, it teaches us to come back to these moments the same way that meditation does and go, oh, this is the thing that I was being redirected back to, this moment right here.
And it seems like a lot of the times the psychedelic sphere of like community and the meditative sphere don't actually mix that much. And at first I thought that was weird, and like I mix them quite a bit. But actually I see there is quite a distinction there, just for the reason that we're talking about right now, which is like there's elevated states, highs, lows, that are induced externally. And then there's meditative states, which are, in my experience, extremely simple. And that is actually where the profundity is, in the simplicity. Yeah. So it's almost very difficult to really blend and merge those in a very polarized way. Because like when I was in Zen centers, I was like, let's see how deep we can get on this meditation shit. And then like basically for the rest of my adult life, I've been on let's see how deep we can get with this whole psychedelic music festival type trail running thing. And but I think, again, I really want to encourage people to move beyond the right and wrong kind of perspective and recognize there are different views and experiences that we can pick up and put down. And both in this context are extremely valuable. Yeah.
We're here to have experiences. We're here to learn. I like that. There's no right or wrong. We just it's curiosity as invitation. Yeah. What's working? I think the curiosity to why do I have to keep doing this thing over and over? I question, not because I'm questioning that it means it's automatically wrong, but it's like, if you're doing another ceremony, if you're doing another round of psychedelics and you just did them a few days ago, not right or wrong, but pause. Like, why? Because ego can get caught into that too. Like, we really like the idea of, I'm going into an ayahuasca ceremony, I'm going into this or that ceremony. It becomes very,
it's a mask.
Identity driven.
Which isn't completely wrong, but it's like, is that really what you want?
But then we get to have a moment of pause, and it's like, is this the purpose? Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many different views we can apply here, which is, in the spiritual community in Boulder, I mean, anywhere. You go to Bali, it's just so in your face. But like, people wearing this image of spirituality, just the all white, the flowing clothes, the beard and the dreads. And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And but again, I don't want to talk. I can talk shit on it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's also
What do you want?
For what end, right? People, right. I think that most people do not see me as like a psychedelic guide, or because I don't present a certain way. That doesn't mean that I'm not, but I'm not like...
You don't have dreads.
I'm not slow in my speech and holding deep eye gazing, and that's all cool and that's good. But I'm like, I am who I am. Yeah. And part of who I am is this. Another good illustration is, I remember when I was sitting around with some girlfriends and they were like, what, let's come up with our witch names. And they were like, what's yours? And I was like, it's Katie.
Yeah. For real.
Because it is what I am. I don't need to perform at it.
And it's so interesting, like the performative spirituality. It's for me such a turnoff because it's coming from that very contracted place of ego. And I'm like,
it's coming from I'm not enough.
Right. Fear, contraction into ego. I'm not enough. I need to put on a new mask to be enough.
And some people are really embodied in themselves and wearing flowy clothes and dreadlocks and all those things, and I love that. I love that. It's not even just like, oh, we need to look a certain way. It's can we just be okay with who we are and whatever presentation we're showing up
and
in.
This brings me to a very potent and very honestly complex distinction that I've been exploring myself, which is this distinction between an expression of ego, which is, like you said, inherently insecure. The ego, it's small, contracted, finite. It's always trying to be better, bigger, prove itself, right? So then we have expressions of soul. And again, I say soul from the depth psychology angle, where we are literally channeling imaginal figures, this image in our mind, and it feels deeply right. And that's the thing. So the flowy clothes, the dreads, the slow talk, and the eye gazing. I'm not gonna lie, the eye gazing kind of freaks me out sometimes, but like everything, it's all okay. It just depends. Where are you coming from? And being honest with yourself. Yeah. Am I coming from insecurity, or am I coming from a place of wholeness? And because I'm whole, I don't give a fuck how people see me.
Or am I coming from a place of exploration and trying things on? And can I be honest? Like, I'm trying it on because I'm trying to see what fits. Because that's okay too, right? Like, that's okay. Right? But it's just like, I think there would be such a different world if we all just like settled into like, we can play in all of this and we don't have to over-identify, and we're allowed to shift and flow and change.
And what's coming to my mind, and I completely agree, but back to this notion of ego versus soul. Yeah. What is the solid distinction other than the place that you're operating from? Because someone can do the exact same shit. Same person, they can feel insecure about it, or they can feel deeply whole and ensouled. And I think the distinction is in the mind of the individual. It's in the psyche. And you say, am I insecure in this? Or
I think it's coherence.
Whole? What does that mean?
Coherence, like just being coherent in our energy, in our mind, in our body, in our spirit. It matches, right? Like it's all like coming from this solidified place. Yeah. And it just, coherence has a certain frequency. We can see it in each other, right? Yeah. Like we maybe don't have the words, but we can see it. Cool. We can see the way that we feel it radiating from their core, and you can feel it. There are some people like who just popped in my head is Erykah Badu. I'm a super like nerd out fan of hers my entire life.
She's got soul.
That woman just owns her. She's coherent. She will walk into any space and just own who she is.
And I love, there's an Erykah Badu quote that is, all of art is just a practice in permission. Yeah. Giving yourself permission to be you.
Permission to be you. Don't be afraid of who you are. So to bring it back to the healing aspect is, the more that we can, because it's a practice, right? Is. All of us, and I'm sure even Miss Badu has moments of insecurity because it's a human trait. It's a human, like we go there, we go into it. But how do we give ourselves permission to continue to play in that and own like, oh, there's insecurity here and that's okay? Because paradoxically, then we are being authentic and in coherence.
And I heard this musical artist, Parangi, who's just a crazy improvisational artist. Yeah, okay, so you know him. But he was doing this, do you know Unison Festival?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I was at Unison Festival and he was doing this like workshop thing. And he was sharing a quote, which is, when you're performing, when you're in the flow of art or really just life, don't stop. If you think you messed up, keep going. Yeah. It's that second guessing, that hesitation where is this really me? Keep going, keep growing, keep evolving, blooming into, again, creating and discovering new versions of ourselves. And I would also add, what else we can do is to create and discover new worlds. And that's where emptiness really gets me off, because it's like, when we understand that not just the self is empty, but so is the world. What is this right now? Who says so? And when we, again, extract those conditioned beliefs and we're left in this void, the void is not this nihilistic cold place. When we're empty of any certain way that things are, it's full of infinite possible potentials to pick. So the question is, what world do we want to construct? And this is not just conceptual. The world that we're living in, the stories that we're operating within, affects our energy body. It affects our stress. It affects our degree of peace, of contentedness, the meaningfulness we feel in the world, or the lack thereof. And I'm so curious, how beautiful can we make this world from the inside out?
My response to that, because what comes up is a couple different things. Like, I don't want to fall into the trap of bypassing, right? Like, we are also in this shared consensus trance of life that we are all operating in. And there are people really, truly suffering in big ways within this agreement. But to pull it back in from that, I do believe that we can recreate our worlds. I've seen it. I've seen it in the ways that my relationships have shifted, because I've recreated my inner landscape without even trying, have come in. Like, it has this ripple effect in my relationships, how people show up to me. You know, my brother was like, I don't really understand all this weird shit you do, but you're really happy and it makes me happy, and it allows us to soften, have other conversations where I don't know because the choice point was made and here we are in this moment, but I don't know that he would have said that to me at a different point. You know, like, I think by me changing my inner landscape, it gave him permission. And it's just like, and I also think with all the great, great suffering in this world, the only estimation that I have for us to get through it is to come back to self and community, because I cannot affect change with the people in power way up top or in a country across the world. I don't have that type of power. I wish I did. But what I do have is, how do I show up to you?
Exactly.
How do I show up to the stranger on the street? How do I hold myself responsible if I'm in a shitty mood and flip somebody off, you know, like, because it happens.
And it makes me think that the revolution will not be televised.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you about it. The revolution is going to happen in the hearts and the minds of individuals and communities coming together and saying, hey, the world's ending and everyone wants you to be afraid and give up your freedom, whatever. And we're going to love each other.
And psychedelics, especially mushrooms, by virtue of how they like are connected and feeding the environment and, you know, sending information, just the nature of how they function within the ecosystem, they then give that to us and remind us that we can do that.
It's community builder.
Yeah.
That's so trippy. That's so cool. And talking about, again, shifting worlds and how that can impact us, I think recognizing that, again, even the consensus reality is going to be empty of inherent truth. Just because everyone believes a certain thing does not actually make it inherently true. And this is where I get this sort of vision of a community, again, coming together, something very grassroots, where we're doing practices that shift perception intentionally to recognize these perception shifting heaven on earth type experiences we're having are also empty.
Yeah.
But so is the dull, cold, lifeless, materialistic worldview that we're going to have to enter again at some point. And can we start to build that? I'm getting chills saying this, in community to quite literally create heaven on earth. And I know that it's possible. And actually, that's what I'm going to be doing. So shout out, just so you know, that's going to be my life's work. If you didn't know, now you know.
Same. I mean, same. That's the whole point of my business partner, Alex Meziad, and I opening up Dignity Counseling and Wellness. On one hand, it looks like just another mental health agency. And on another hand, we both come in with strong spiritual lens. And I just don't personally know how we can heal this without ourselves a connection. It doesn't have to look like, you don't have to believe like me, but how are we making meaning of all of this? And then and we're really dedicated to how do we build community. And my long-term goal, big dream, is to create like a retreat center that's also very community oriented. A lot of people get priced out of this stuff. And, you know, I'm like, none of us are free if we're not all free, you know? So it's like, I really want to long-term figure out how do we give this to the masses.
So I heard this interesting scientific, study understanding where they say if you want to shift perception, behavior in a culture, actually you just need 10% of the dominant culture to shift.
It's like the 100 monkey theory, I think, is
I don't
related
know what that
to
is.
that. There's this idea it's been observed that once 100 monkeys within this like tribe of monkeys learns a certain skill, then all of a sudden the entire population kind of catches it.
You know, if it's just the way to do it, it's like if someone's opening a nut a certain way that's super easy, like as a monkey, and you see them and you're like, oh wait, that's the way. And it's like once you find people again constructing heaven on earth from the inside out, everyone will be like, oh wait, that's the way. Duh.
What it's reminding me of is, and this is why I'm glad that Colorado has done the Natural Medicine Health Act, because you know, I've been underground. I've been a little bit of like counterculture in that way, but I grew up with a stepdad who I adore. He's since passed away several years ago, but he grew up, he's very conservative, very Nixon era, Reagan era, say no to drugs, like no. And towards the end of his life, he had cancer and it was really painful. And he had a lot of chemotherapy and a lot of radiation and it was wrecking his body. And I remember driving back to Illinois and I walked in the house and this man who was always like, no to cannabis, no to any of this. There's cannabis sitting on the table. What it was that Illinois legalized it medically. So now it became okay, because it's okay that there are people out there that want to be good law abiding citizens. So my hope is the 10% of like the risk takers and the people who are willing to do this work. And then the state of Colorado and the people who voted for this to be like, yes, let's do this. That's this 10% that you're talking about. Now it's toppling. Now it's going to become available to more people where otherwise they would have been like, that's illegal. I don't know. Or I don't even know how to seek that out, you know?
It's so cool. First, I mean, it makes me think when I was living in New York and weed was illegal, I was like, honestly, it was way more fun to smoke weed. But I guess it's just some personality types. But like you said, when there's something that's advantageous, just overall, people will figure it out.
And now it's been given permission, right? And now it's like there's some legal framework around it. There's protections. People can know like the state is regulating growers, so there's safety in like this is being tested. You know what you're getting. All these things, right? You know what you're getting. And for some people like myself, prior to that, I was like, okay, whatever. But for some people that does matter. And it is like that 10% toppling into a broader container to now, open this up for people, which I think is actually the beauty of the medicine's wisdom, being like, we're getting in here. Yeah.
I mean, I heard something really trippy specifically about ayahuasca, but just plant medicines, how we're in this ecosystem with other beings. You know what I mean? And they're always talking to us. Yeah. And like if you ever take ayahuasca or smoke weed or tobacco or anything, it's communicating to you through you. And I heard a trippy theory about ayahuasca where it's actually just going into the minds of human beings in order to save itself, as we're destroying the rainforest at like 38,000 acres a day or some shit.
So Michael Pollan wrote the book How to Change Your Mind, but before that he wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, I believe is what it's called, and he talked about that, like how corn is a plant that should have never actually survived. It doesn't propagate itself at all, but somehow its consciousness worked with us, especially in Mesoamerica, and it was advantageous to us. We are in relationship to plants and they are in relationship back to us. And we have just done this exceptionalism thing with ourselves and placed ourselves outside of the natural order of things, but we really are. And psychedelics get to communicate with us. These plant medicines get to come in and, have this the little chat with us.
Exactly. Or we get to have this co-created experience with them, where it's like the weed, the ayahuasca, whatever, it gets to see through our eyes. It gets to live through this human vessel, and like, so there's a symbiotic thing going on there, and like, again, the weed, the ayahuasca, maybe it has legitimate intention behind it, like personal intention, its own agency to choose, and maybe it communicates in a much more subtle way than language. And I've always said, not just plants are communicating with us, everything in the natural world. Like, you go into the mountains and you see how beautiful it is, that feeling in your chest, that beauty, it's speaking to you.
Well, with ayahuasca, right, like I could be off here, but I believe the story, like, how did they figure this out in a jungle with thousands and thousands of plants?
Right.
That this particular combination of plants that aren't related to each other need to go into a pot and get boiled and brewed down for so long. And it was because they're not disconnected from nature. They were like, the plants told us how to do this.
I don't doubt it for a second, to be honest. It makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. There's there's so many, I know, subtle communications happening even between human beings, but especially between plants. We know how plants have an electromagnetic field, just like human beings, and there's communication in that field, and we're all actually feeling it. But I think so many human beings get caught up in the speed, the coarseness of human connection and interaction in life, that we actually lose touch with the subtle communication that's going on at all times. Between us and, plants, mountains, unseen beings, potentially.
Well, and then we further the separation and further the mental chaos through perceived ideas of connection through, like, our phones. And I am not separate from this, but our phones and our TV. And it's just like, I just had some friends out here for Thanksgiving and their kids, and it was really refreshing to see them running around in their socks in the dirt, smashing rocks instead of being on their phone. It's like, oh, that's what they're meant to be doing.
Smashing rocks is dope. It was good times.
I think it's a little boy thing for sure. Yeah. But what are we getting when we are inside all the time, when we're disconnected and when we're othering each other?
And that's, I think, what we're going to see in these I
think days. We're seeing it.
We're seeing it. And let's see how it pans out.
Sure.
Because my whole thing is like, the phone is like just like the mind, and as I say in meditative fields, like, it's a beautiful tool.
It is
terrible master.
Sure.
Sucks. This is way worse than the mind fucks a lot of people up too. Let's put it like that.
Oh, yeah.
And the goal is, we don't want to be enslaved by the mind. We don't want to be enslaved by the phone. We want to have agency, discipline, control, and the ability to, have agency over our experience. And it's so easy for people to get dopamine hijacked and turn into these, and I don't say this badly, but zombies. Like zombies. It's like there's a blankness. There's an addiction to the dopamine of the scrolling. And like, there's no critical thinking. It's the algorithm is sending you content. You're not even typing anything in. It's just like consumption. No thought.
Well, and we're addicted to the idea that that's somehow connection, or that people get to know us in that way, right? Because if I'm putting out material into the world, then they know, but I'm like, oh, that's a curated version of me. They don't actually know me. And then we're all kind of living in the distortion of what we all think this is. So the bravest thing is to show up and connect and slow down and get quiet with yourself, get quiet with others.
Mhm.
I love some of the best journeys I've ever done with psychedelics was just like wandering around with friends, just in nature on sidewalks or sitting, like just hanging out in a living room. Those have been some of the most healing things because not only am I connecting to myself, but I'm connecting to people that I deeply love. So the therapeutic aspect of it is incredibly important. But, you know, I think it's important to say that this Prop 122, when it was passed in Colorado, it decriminalized like 5 specific plant medicines. And so you can't, like, you're not going to get arrested for this. Explore your consciousness, explore yourself.
What are those plant medicines?
Gosh, okay.
Iboga, I know is one.
It's iboga. It's mescaline, but not from peyote. Peyote is protected.
Right, that's right.
Because it's over harvested and only
I love
grows in
San
a
Pedro.
very. I love San Pedro.
I love San Pedro. One of my favorites.
It's and I know I keep calling mushrooms a plant medicine. I know it's fungi. I know everybody don't come at me. I know it's a fungi medicine, not I get it. I get the distinction. Yeah. It's just easier.
Ayahuasca, DMT containing plants are on it.
Yeah, what is
I don't know if like extracted DMT freebases. Is this a plant medicine?
Like no, it's not. I don't know. You can look it up. It's out there. I don't recall all of them in this moment, but you know, it's like we have a right to our consciousness and to our expansion. And what I would say to that is if you're new to it, like find somebody that you trust. If you're new to it and you're doing deep work, if you have deep wounding, it might be worth doing it with like somebody who's trained to hold trauma because it can come up. Yeah. And psychedelics, a bad trip, man. A bad trip is a bad trip. But if you are with somebody that knows how to hold it, it can change from a bad trip to a deeply healing trip.
Again, the way of relating to that experience flavors it.
Well, and if you're just trying to figure it out on your own, that's really disorienting. So if you have somebody there to help guide you through it, it can be really supportive. And
I want to go back to that topic about connection and community because I think like I love social media. I think it's great. I think,
clearly.
Yeah, of course. So, but it has nothing on human to human connection.
No,
like that's the thing. It's like to be stuck just with hella followers and DMs, and then it means nothing.
Yeah,
it's this like synthetic connection, and I think we're in this phase of really recognizing what this not just synthetic connection, synthetic food, the bullshit that we've been fed for so long, the bullshit entertainment we've been given for so long that is rotting our brains. Like we're moving from the synthetic age, the Wonder Bread age, into the authentic age of not just of what we consume, but who we are, the authentic expression of soul that's on the way. And I mean, it's here with many people, obviously, but I think as a cultural shift, we're moving from the synthetic to the authentic and understanding what is authentic fun. It's community. It's laughing with your friends about some random ass shit. It's like,
I want to like the laughter part lands because I think sometimes as a therapist and somebody who does hold space for really deep work, I can forget, and it can be that we are here to be in joy. The highest frequency is joy. Joy, love and joy. Like, but what is love if we're not enjoying love, right? So it's joy to be laughing, to like be silly, to like don't take it all so seriously, right? Like, so because a lot of this conversation has been about like serious kind of feeling stuff, but like we do that work so then we can just like laugh about the absurdity of it all too.
And it's interesting. I've had other people, because who knows what the highest frequency is? Some people are like authenticity is the highest frequency, joy is the highest frequency, love's the highest frequency. And I think, bro, they all start to blend and merge into one
Eventually it goes back into the same place. But you know, like we have to God, who doesn't have a good time just when you're with some friends just being absolutely absurd and like busting a gut in a way that's like that ugly laughing that you just don't even care because it's just so fun.
Those are the times. Those are the fucking times. And I love that. And that's the thing. recognizing like different friends, different people bring different sides of us out.
Yeah.
And find those people that make you die laughing.
Yeah.
And dude, I got some friends of mine. Shout out Jeff, shout out Jeremy, shout out John. These are the fucking boys. And I'm just smiling thinking about them. And like, so I talk a lot about love as well. And like, there's something so potent in just like platonic friendships.
Oh yeah.
Like just unbelievably healing about just like that stability, that being able to come back for me to the boys, to that masculine, and have it just be so grounding. And you can be so real, and they can talk shit about you when you're being a little bitch about something, or being like when you're kind of in your own way. Having somebody that can call you out. What a blessing to have people like
just
that.
Real honesty, like it's, you know, like you've got a good relationship when somebody can be like, hey, you're knock it off.
Yeah, exactly. You're being a piece of shit right now. I'm like, well, okay. It's like if someone random on Instagram tells me that, I'm like, oh, fuck off. If my homies tell me that, I'm like, oh, maybe.
Right. It's the difference in relationship, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's so important, right? Like, what is all the healing or any of it about if we're not actually going to be able to enjoy?
That's what it's
all
about.
Of this. Yeah.
So really, psychotherapy, just healing in general, seems like we're getting deeper on the path to deeper and deeper ecstasy, enjoyment, joy, making this place heaven on earth again. And the question remains is, how do we do that optimally? And that's where we're exploring these substances, exploring meditation, exploring psychotherapy.
And we just get to like get curious and approach it in whatever way, whether it's therapy, whether it's psychedelics, whether it's meditation, or whatever, body work, energy work, whatever, all the ways that people do this. What are we trying? Like, we have to move towards it and heal it. Not everybody will. That's okay. Maybe it's just not where you're at in this moment. But gosh, if there's a calling to do it, just reach out, you know, find someone.
And for me, it's like, why would I not be on this path to discover how great I can make this life? Because for me on the spiritual path, for a little bit of time, it was about, oh, this thing called nirvana sounds kind of sick, the end of suffering. But now it's shifted to how beautiful, meaningful, deep, joyous, expansive can I make this life? And I already know there's not a limit there. There's not a limit there. So understanding, how could I not be on this path? What else would I be doing? Making money? What the fuck is that going to do for me if it doesn't improve the quality of my experience? Yeah.
And I will also just name, we live in this reality that requires the contrast. So if there's suffering, there's joy on the other side of it. Always, always, always. We know love because we know what it feels like to have loss. Amen. You know, like
checkmate.
Otherwise, we're just floating in the void, and we're here in the contrast to feel the contrast.
Exactly. And there's something like, it's all relative, like we said earlier. And I remember Alan Watts said something, I mean, profound, I'm sure a ton of people have heard, which is like, you know, first, it's like if you envision this as a dream, at first you do all the shit you want the dope feasts and the orgies and the crazy wars and battles and heroes' journeys, and then you want to create something different, something a little more simple, more mundane, more you know, relaxed, perhaps, something, a different flavor of the dream, or maybe we forget that we're dreaming, and how that is all part of the duality too. How can I be found if I wasn't first lost? And then if I feel lost, beautiful, right where I need to be,
right? Because that is the doorway into the next phase.
And it's I don't think it's a cop-out, to be honest, but it's just recognizing no matter where you're at, it has a place. Because the opposite experience is on the way. And that's okay. Can I shift my relationship from clinging to the good and pushing away to the bad to remaining open to whatever is coming through me and to me? And what happens then? Again, that's when everything is flavored with this feeling very deeply right. And almost, for me, it turns into something very sacred, actually. Where if I can open to it, it has a place, and it still might hurt. Grief, loss, but it feels right.
Well, we don't work to push it away in the same way, right? When grief hurts and we don't have this like expanded awareness or openness, we haven't dove into it and befriended it, then the grief is really going to be painful, because we want to get out of the grief instead of welcoming it as a friend and being like, this grief is here. Speaking of my stepdad, it was like, this grief is here because I loved him so much.
Yeah.
This grief is a reflection of the love that I had. When my dad passed away, that was big grief. It was because that love that I had for him was so big. Like, if I can hold it that way and let the grief move, then it's not something that I have to get away from, because really what I'm doing is getting closer to the love that I had for them.
Wow. Totally. And something beautiful that I found to be true in my life is I see this image of like a bird flying through the sky. It's like we're all flying through the void, and when you go up, you got to come down. How deeply are you willing to love the people in this life? How deeply are you willing to love this life in general, and you, this body, this incarnation? Are you willing to love it deeply, knowing that it all has to end? And knowing that when it ends, it's gonna hurt, and that's okay. And that's a question that for everybody. And I would rather love recklessly and get my heart ripped out of my chest with grief than just be too afraid to ever touch it.
Yeah. And if you are living in that space where you're too afraid to ever touch it, that deserves softness and curiosity.
Exactly.
And it's okay. I've personally been there where it's like, oh, I've been really, really hurt. And I don't know that I can do that again. Totally. And it's worth, like, that's something that psychedelics have helped me with, meditation, nature, prayer, all the things, is to come back to, like, what you just said. It's not worth it if we're not willing to have the experience.
And at the same time, I will say, like, this whole podcast, the title is Spiritual Fuckboy, which is hilarious. And it's interesting to me because I've had my heart, again, metaphorically ripped out of my chest in relationship. And now I'm at this point where I don't want that depth. Not only do I not want it, my body rejects it.
Right. Well, that pain hasn't been resolved.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting as I'm having it's a tongue-in-cheek title, obviously.
Sure.
For anyone listening. It's a joke. But like, but I feel myself actually healing through these relationships that, yes, like I'm keeping them at a certain depth, but they're starting to heal. It's like I'm dipping my toes back in those waters.
It's also safety, right?
Exactly.
Like boundaries and slowness. Not everything needs to go deep so fast. This goes back to, like, can we just keep it light and playful, but with awareness, right? Yeah. It's the awareness that, like, oh, I'm not trying to, like, dive back into the deep waters. I've got to just have a little fun and, like, build that muscle up again.
That's not wrong. And so people have this, like, debate about monogamy, polyamory type shit. And, like, I don't have a side. I'm like, again, these are different ways. These are ways of seeing we pick up and put down, ways of relating.
It's just a way of experiencing ourselves in relationship to another person. And who am I to tell a person how they're supposed to have that experience?
There's pros and cons to both of them. Sure. And we have to be honest about that.
Their relationships are hard.
Yeah.
Whether it's with one person or many.
Yeah.
Full stop, it's hard.
Yeah.
Good luck in whatever way that you're going to experience it.
Relationship to yourself is hard. Relationship to life is hard.
No doubt.
There's no escape. We're between a rock and a hard place. Now what? And that's where I'm like, go straight towards that thing that you don't want to do.
Yep.
And but at the same time, at the time that feels right. Because for me, it's like, it doesn't feel right, again, in my body, to try to enter into a deeply monogamous relationship.
Sure.
That would feel like a cop-out, actually. It's like, I almost feel like I need more time with me.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, so there's a part about trust and being authentic with who we are. Although people be like, hey, do you think you're escaping with polyamory? And I'm like, well, I could say the same thing about escaping into monogamy, to be honest. And so it's about being honest and authentic with what's real for us. And no one can tell you that. That's something where it's a very personal conversation with me and me. And am I lying to myself? Am I being deceptive? Am I running? And just know that, well, for me, it's like recognizing I can only run for so long. Yeah. And again, just because I'm more on, again, the fuckboy side, again, it's a joke. I'm not like a deceitful, malicious person, just so y'all know. But like allowing myself to heal through that and to give myself the space that I need. And even though other people can think what they want, fuck them. I don't have control over them. Like,
yeah, and I think that's just part of the nature of life. We have to be able to find our authentic path, and even in the pursuit of the authentic path, we may find that we were on a path that wasn't authentic, but that's part of the process. Yes. And It's not to say we are interpersonal beings. I'm not saying ignore what other people's reflections are. Maybe take them in with curiosity, but just because they're giving the reflection doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, how do we do this interplay between I'm connecting to myself, I'm staying in connection with others, I'm taking it in, but I'm not making it who I am.
I mean,
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's like, I mean, this is where the teaching of emptiness can be so profound and useful, to be like, you know, their view of me, my view of myself is equally going to be empty. And then that's the thing. No right or wrong. And I can also be like a very stubborn person in some ways. I'm a Taurus, whatever that means.
Oh, that makes sense.
You know astrology. So we didn't have time to get into this, but Katie's also a witch, a self-identified witch.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to do that next time because we've just been killing it right now. We're at like almost an hour and a half.
Okay.
But yeah, I would love to have another conversation about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, ultimately, mental health and spirituality, I think, have to be integrated. And I think Carl Jung said something about that. The real healers are the
I could
teachers.
talk for hours on just integration.
Oh,
integration. Integration is one of those things that there's a lot of that word is up right now because of all the psychedelic stuff. But I think we're all figuring out, what does that even mean, and how do we do that?
What does integration mean to you?
To me, it's we're taking all the pieces and we're bringing them back in a coherent way. It's like I'm letting it, not in a mind matter way, although that is a part of it, right? Our mind isn't separate from us either, but it's a nervous system, like repatterning into allowing a new, like how did you say that earlier? Like creating a new world, but we're creating a new internal world.
Heaven on earth from the inside out.
Yeah. It's like, how do we take, and integration isn't just related to psychedelics, it's related to our whole life. How do we take this and allow it to shift us into the more honest version of ourselves?
And what's so interesting is I recognize this. I didn't even learn it somewhere. It's just what I learned from being on my phone all the time. Like when I'm at a red light and I just pull up Instagram completely mindlessly, like what's the cost of that? And those little moments of integration where I can witness my mind making meaning out of the past or planning for the future so that I can be present now. I don't get that when I'm on the phone all the time. So this integration never happens, and I'm in just this amorphous cloud of experience that doesn't really mean anything. I don't really know what happened till I sit with it. And that's, for me, formal sitting meditation, but also just time not doing anything.
Meditation helps, art helps, being in nature helps, writing helps, doing nothing helps.
Easier
baths
baths do help. I haven't had a bathtub in years. I'm legit bummed about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, how do we slow down? I mean, integration is a whole big thing, but it is, how do we take these big events and let them affect the positive change on us that they were meant to? Because we have things happening all the time. We can have a big psychedelic experience and then we blow right past it, and we're doing the same thing. Yeah. And integration also tends, in my estimation, to be a bit subtle, because it's like I turn around and I didn't realize it was happening, and years later I'm like, oh, it's all different.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? And that's why I love meditation, because the person that I was legitimately 5 years ago, 6-7 years ago, I was like hopelessly depressed, kind of like reserved. Not like people just assume I've been this version of myself my whole life because that's the only one they've met. But I wish you could have seen me 5 or 6 years ago. You'd be like drastic a day and night difference. And it's a product of the integration of all the beautiful experiences. And it's not just psychedelics. It's a beautiful experience I've had in relationship, being able to like that heart-wrenching getting my heart ripped out of my chest, heartbreak. Like it took me, I would say, legitimately 3 years. I think I just integrated that experience this past summer. And like when you integrate it, you're like, oh, there's a resolution.
Because integration is a process of meaning making to an extent, not fully, and also just change, right? So when you got your heart ripped out, you were trying to make meaning of what all that was and allow whatever that all meant to you to not just leave you, like so many of us can be left just resentful, bitter, hurt.
I won't be that my whole life.
And
Personally.
and it was like, okay, but what was there to be learned, and how do I
Yeah.
want to let that change me?
Yeah.
Even if it was deeply painful.
And it's becoming so connected and intimate with that pain itself.
Yeah.
And like I was legitimately crying with like girls I was seeing for years after that breakup. And I was like, maybe I healed it. And it's like, no, you gotta sob again. And it's just like so much. And it's not conceptual, it's in the body.
Yep, it's through the body, it's through the tears, it's through the laughter, it's through whatever
Yeah.
expression. There's that saying, the way knows the way. We just have to trust it and just let the body be a part of it.
Yeah.
But we're not taught that in this culture, so we
Yeah.
often need support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in.
And that's where we come
ideally
in.
community. I think in a beautiful world we wouldn't need therapists because we would have
Oh my God, I would love it. I would love it to live in a world where my job was obsolete.
Yeah. Because we all had each other so deeply, and I think it's on the way.
Yeah.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
So Katie, that's it for today. We could
Perfect.
keep talking forever, and I would love to have you on at some point soon to talk about your career as a witch, and then integrating that into the work that you do with psychedelics and in clinical psychotherapy.
Yeah.
So Katie, do you want to shout yourself out, like what you do?
So I'm a therapist here. My office is in Niwot, Colorado, so just outside of Longmont and Boulder, and we're growing our agency, so we're going to have other clinicians and really being thoughtful. They probably will all have some, everybody's different. They're all allowed to be themselves, but really kind of holding this framework that we spent a lot of time talking about today about our wholeness, about our ability to heal. Doing that work. I'm doing, like I said, I do ketamine assisted therapy. I am moving into the above ground psilocybin mushroom assisted therapy. I really love running retreats. I can't wait to get back into that space. We'll see what that is. But our website is dignitycw.com. So that's a good way to find
Dignity
me.
CW.
For dignity counseling and wellness.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Dignity CW here in the Front Range of Colorado.
Correct.
And Katie Clum.
Katie Clum.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.